In today's video, I will be discussing medical personnel in the Pacific. Before I begin, a bit of background on the conflict in the Pacific from one of my sources. The war against Japan was fought in the area that covers roughly 1/3 of the Earth's surface, from Bermuda to Hawaii, and from Alaska to Australia. In 1942, outside of Australia and New Zealand, port facilities were primitive at best. Loading was slow, storage was difficult because of the damp climate and tropical heat. The wounded and sick evacuees endured long and difficult journeys in the island world. Medical supplies, like everything else, are only moved by sea or air. During the Second World War, the Marine Corps did not have their own medical personnel, so we relied on the Navy for their medical needs. The Japanese didn't respect the Geneva Convention. Quote, medics and litter bearers were legitimate targets to them. This is the reason why, as the war progressed, most corpsmen were armed, at first with 1911 pistols, and later with M1 carbines. M1pencilwordpress.com says. According to frontlineea.com, medical personnel who were in Pacific Theater had their own special training, being, quote, combat readiness, tropical disease management, and trauma care specific to the Pacific environment. Practice in treating maladies such as malaria, dysentery, and tropical infections were essential, alongside tactical evacuations and battlefield procedures. Sorry if I butchered some of that. They also had training in improvisation under limited resources conditions, requiring, quote, personnel to perform procedures with minimal equipment. In the past, I talked about what medics carried, and this applies here as well. But Navy corpsmen, the technical name for medics in the Pacific, didn't paint their helmets. I also wanted to say what medics carried video. I also discussed splints. I brought up the Navy had a unique type of splint, like a wire rolled splint. This splint made for both arms and legs fractures. Anyways, back on topic. In combat, the Corpsmen wear standard Marine uniforms, as well as equipment. The only difference between them and Marines is the medical bags they carried, those being the Navy 14-450s. Before I show you the bags, M1pencilwordpress.com also has some interesting tidbits to share. A lot of interesting combinations of uniforms and equipment were to be used, partly depending on the units the corpsmen were attached to, and partly depending on the preferences of the individual corpsman. Almost everything is possible. You could even see BAR belts being used instead of medical pouches, for example. The full set consists of 2 of the 14-450 bags, but it was common for one bag to be used. The photos I used for the section are from the m1pencil.wordpress.com. They have a full kit breakdown. On the photos, you can see Navy 14-450 medical pouches with harness, P-51 utility jacket, pistol belt, M1 carbine pouch, jungle first aid kit, bolo knife, Navy Mark II knife, the medical pouches, said M1 Pencil. To start, I would like to discuss diseases. Disease poses the biggest threat in the Pacific. One of the biggest threats to medics in the department overall was malaria. The 380th.org states, disease was a major threat to conserving fighting strength and enabling armies and navies to defeat the enemy in World War II. This threat spread through local water supplies and poor waste disposal. Malaria is a mosquito-borne disease caused by the, I'll put that word on screen, I don't know how to say that, parasite that attacks the red blood cells and liver of an infected person. The hot and humid weather of the islands provided as the perfect grounds for malaria. Many other diseases spread, like venereal disease, yaws, related to syphilis. These spread because of, quote, a great extent upon the health of civilian population on the opportunities for fertilization on. Contact with the natives, combined with the high humidity, also led to bacterial and fungal diseases. And what the 380th.org described as infected earth led to hookworm infections. All of these factors can take a man out of the fight. Frostbite, jungle rot, and dysentery are also real worries as well. Frostbite having 3 tiers of burns, per se. Quote, in the first degree of skin was intact but frozen, numb, and pale or grayish. The second degree of skin became pink or assumed red, bluish motting. A marked, painful, I don't know how to say that, enlarged, clear, or I don't know how to say that either, blisters appeared in the third degree. I don't know how to say that word, subsided. The blisters were replaced by, what a word. Then black, I'm not going to say that either. www.researchgate.net say arthropod-borne diseases were common and sometimes fatal, spread by two species of mosquito. It's known for breakbone fever. To fight the disease, the jungle fighting led to many advancements in medicine. The first advancements were made in the Spanish-American War. Quote, Army studies in tropical medicine originally grew out of the Spanish-American War of 1898 to 99. Medical service in the war against Japan said, malaria was previously stated a major issue to the point where, quote, personnel were trained in prevention medicine to control malaria spreading, the 380th.org said. The counteraction to mosquitoes was the spread of oil on breeding areas and spraying DDT, which reduced malaria rates 7%, though it was impossible to completely stop the spread of malaria. And in the end, between 60 to 65% of American troops in the South Pacific reported contracting the disease at some point. Corpsmen and similar personnel gave out Aberdeen as malaria suppressants. But before Aberdeen in 1942, before the Japanese captured the Dutch islands of Java, it was the main producer of quinine, the leading antimalarial drug at the time. Because of this, quote, atropine became the alternative antimalarial medicine for the Pacific, famous for its horrible taste and tendency to turn soldiers' skin yellow. Despite its unpopularity with the troops, atropine kept malaria under control, the 380th.org said. In the past, I've discussed potassium pentagrate and its past fighting jungle rot and its origins. To give a quick rundown here, it dries out the skin and kills bacteria. For frostbite, I can't find anything from the Navy, but I have the Army's treatment. That being, quote, patients with second or third degree frostbite received 3,000 units of tinnitus TAT, toxin and antitoxin, www.researchgate.net said. Sadly, I didn't find anything for first degree, so if you have any information, please comment that below. Another fact I found about plasma, and I didn't even know this until now, was, quote, at the beginning, only plasma was available was a substitute for the loss of blood by 1945, which I did know. Serum, don't know how to say that, had been developed, which is the whole blood that is rich in the red blood cells that carry oxygen, and it's considerably more effective than plasma alone, 380th.org said. And air evacuation for the first time, which I've discussed in a previous video, sadly it's back when I use an AI voice. During the war, surgery techniques such as removing dead tissue resulted in fewer amputations than at any time. I don't know how to say that. Used for plague and TB was administered for the first time in large-scale combat. Smallpox, typhoid fever, tinnitus, cholera, yellow fever, and bubonic plague vaccines have also become available too. Man, this is becoming another interesting drug video. Most of this stuff is from 380th.org. Definitely some cool stuff on that website. A lot of this can also apply to the normal army, like the plasma stuff. I thought it was cool just to touch up on it again for more background knowledge for overall medical personnel. Just a tad off topic. My bad. To start off the fun facts, I have someone who I've talked about in the past who served in the Pacific, that being Benjamin L. Solomon. He was a surgeon in the Pacific. If you want to know more about him, I'll have a video above. In a one-off case, in the Pacific Theater, tourniquets were in short supply, and the medical personnel had to improvise, using belts, cords for gas masks, and pistol holsters, and muslin strips. after a Japanese bomb hit 300 aviators in a mess hall eating breakfast. That's fun to see. Like, you know what I mean, whatever. Another fact is I found that Japanese troops, however, suffered more casualties from malaria because they were without sufficient preventative medication and treatment. Wana and Papua New Guinea. An estimated 45% of Japanese soldiers died of malaria, PacificWarMuseum.org said. Last fun fact, 97 out of 100 wounded Marine and Navy personnel got wounded at least once in the Pacific. I'll definitely come back to the Pacific Theater and talk about how they moved and evacuated wounded, because wow, there was a lot to talk about here. Even the organization can be included in that video. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more, click the videos on the left and the right. If you have any video suggestions or questions, comment below. Have a great day.